so many dysfunctions. Women fake things because they're so afraid of not measuring up. Because they honestly believe down in their psyche that if they're not enough for him, he has license to leave or find something else. Women don't realize that they're worth so much more. That women's bodies are perfect the way they are. They're perfect in their own imperfections. Who cares if you have arm hair or a weird color of hair that, they don't want? Very few people, if they could change anything and it would miraculously change, very few people would say, I'm okay the way I am. Because I haven't met 5 people in my entire life that liked themselves just the way they are. If they have brown hair, they want blonde. If they're blonde, they want anything else. Because we're never satisfied with what we want and what we have. And when religious people view consensual unmarried sex the same as assault or a crime, that's how dangerous it is for people who, with no fault of their own, survived trauma and are treated as though they're a whore. And I've known many women in therapy that never told on abuse because they were terrified of being known as not a virgin anymore. And virginity doesn't exist. It's like a unicorn. It's a myth. Virginity, there is no test, and it doesn't exist. It's a social construct to make women feel bad about being who they are. And imagine women that don't have or don't act on sexuality, where they're asexual, or they have a low sex drive, or to Christians, even worse, having an overactive sex drive, where they call you things like a nymphette or a whore because you have an overactive sex drive, which is completely normal. It may not be the majority of women out there, but what about men that have low sex drives or they don't act on having a sex drive? Do you think they're honest about it? To be ridiculed and told that they're not the ideal, that there's something wrong with them? How many people have died or done self-harm, depression? How many women have lived their whole lives without knowing that there's something better out there, that their partner doesn't treat them well, or that they deserve to wear whatever they want and be happy about it without someone telling them at a beach that they're not wearing enough clothing? And anyone who judges you based on what you wear, what you do, or what you don't do isn't a good person. We need to stop lumping in assault with consensual sex. And if you believe you want to wait till marriage, it's your life. But I'm not going to marry someone unless I know we're compatible in every way. And I discourage people from getting married without knowing if you're sexually compatible, because that sounds like a mess waiting to happen. You're flipping a coin, because if you don't know if you're compatible, marriages, people I've known have gotten divorced because their sex drives are so different. What their needs or what they don't want to do is something the other person really needs. They're so incompatible, they don't make it. And nobody deserves to go through that. And if purity is more important than knowing somebody and knowing that you know enough about them to make a gamble like marriage, you're not ready to be married. You want to approach marriage with as few uncertainties as possible. Even though there's going to be so many uncertainties, You need to have conversations before you even approach engagement. If you can't talk about sexuality or the lack of wanting to do it, if you don't know what everyone's compatible or what they desire and what they don't, you have no business getting married. My therapist always says, if you can't have the hard talks before you're engaged, it won't get easier after. It's just going to get harder because there's more at stake. A marriage, a family, kids, it's going to get harder. And these questions, these conversations are not going to be easy for most people. But you have to have them. And when not a majority, but a great number and quantity of women can go years after marriage without having a fulfilling sex life due to trauma, due to inexperience, due to ignorance of how things work. This is the harm of slut shaming and purity culture does against people. And we've already talked about modesty and how it's a construct that men use to avoid accountability. They use it so they can blame something without saying, I crossed a line. Even if it wasn't intentional, I crossed a line. It's my fault. And nobody but myself, as an adult man, is responsible. That's why they created modesty and purity, so they could avoid consequence and accountability. And no one beats a woman down more than her own internal misogyny.